Everyone's focused on the top running backs in the NFL draft, and I get it, they're stacked. But that spotlight is leading to some insane talents falling through the cracks and going unnoticed. For example, we have one back who had over 1,500 yards and 25 touchdowns last year, and he probably won't be drafted until the 5th round. So in this video, we're breaking down the 5 most overlooked running backs in the NFL draft who could be household names as soon as this year. And we're gonna start with the 21-year-old running back out of Oklahoma State. It's Ollie Gordon. This is a big, prototypical NFL size, especially from the older NFL days. 6'1", 226 pounds. The guy's a beast, and you probably remember him from a couple years ago back in college. We'll talk about it. Had a massive season, but he disappointed some people in 2024, most people, and then he continued to do that at the NFL Combine. Because at the Combine, Gordon comes out here and he runs a 4.6 140 time. Now, honestly, that's not great, but let's keep in mind, he's 226 pounds, nearly 230 pounds. So when you factor in his size, it's not the worst speed at the position. For instance, Kyren Williams is way smaller than Ollie Gordon by 20 plus pounds, and he ran a similar time. Now, here's what you need to know. In 2023, arguably one of the best seasons we've ever seen from a college running back, where Gordon has a workhorse role of 285 carries, over 1,700 rushing yards, 22 touchdowns. When you factor in his receiving production as well, 330 yards, he went over 2,000 total yards, 30 plus catches is elite in college for a running back, nearly hit 40. He was a standout. If he would have went to the NFL draft, if he was eligible to that year, he probably would have been a second, at the worst, 3rd round pick, most likely a 2nd round pick. But the problem was Gordon never lived up to his 2023 production and hype that he had coming into this past year in 2024. And it was kind of a mystery. Like if you scroll through right here and you see he played in 12 games, he saw a lot less work. He started splitting carries more, only 858 yards. So his efficiency dropped as well. He's only averaging 4.5 yards per carry instead of 6 plus. His overall receiving production, receptions, yards per catch, everything starts to drop for him. And it wasn't an injury unless it was undisclosed. It wasn't like an overall offensive switch. His efficiency just dropped. And because of this, they didn't give him his normal nearly 300 touch role. They started to take back his touches per game because he just wasn't producing. So that is where a lot of the concerns will come from for Ollie Gordon. But what about the positives when you watch his film? He has good vision and patience, and for his size at 226 pounds, he has exceptional balance, and he's a reliable pass catcher as well. I also think some underrated aspects are that he's definitely a capable workhorse. We saw that in 2023, and he has solid ball security skills. So let's talk about the negatives, and obviously the biggest one is that the production just dropped off in 2024. That is a concern. He can also be overly patient at times. He can improve his short area burst. His long speed does have some concerns, and despite his size, his pass protection skills aren't the best. Now, right now, Ollie Gordon is projected on mock draft database. It takes a bunch of mock drafts out there and gets kind of the consensus. They're saying that on average, he's going in the 4th round, the end of the 4th round. Let's look at some of the teams. I think he makes sense for the Colts, for the Steelers. We can see the teams right now. The Chiefs, he's on their board. The Cowboys, he's on their board. I think the Cowboys probably take a running back earlier than this, the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd round at the latest, not all the way into the 4th round where he's being projected. So I do think the Chiefs make some sense. They re-signed some players. Obviously, they have Pacheco coming off an injury, re-signed Kareem Hunt. They ended up getting Elijah Mitchell from the 49ers, but none of those guys are like standouts. Pacheco's a standout, but those other guys I would say that I mentioned, I'd still like the Colts here to put this guy behind Jonathan Taylor as he ages and see how that works. And then one stat I'll leave you with from Twitter from the 33rd team that I saw, college running backs to have 1,500 plus rushing yards and 300 plus receiving yards over the last 3 years. It's a very short list, and a lot of them are in this draft. You have Amarion Hampton, you have Cam Scatterbo, you have Ollie Gordon in this draft, and those guys are definitely going to go above him based on consensus. And then some other names like Bijan Robinson are on here. So only 6 guys were able to be that productive in college, and he's the biggest back of them all at 226 pounds. I do think that's worth noting. Next up, we'll go to another pretty big back, 21-year-old out of Miami, Damien Martinez. He's 6 foot, 217 pounds. Unlike a Ollie Gordon, we saw Damien Martinez show up to the Combine and really show out. He runs a 4.5 140 time according to Player Profiler. These are their workout metrics. 80th percentile speed score, so that's well above average. Burst is 66th percentile, also above average. So he looks to be a solid athlete. But what about the production during his time in college? Honestly, he checks the boxes there as well. All 3 years in college, you can see right away he's rushing for nearly 1,000 total yards on very limited carries, 161, averaging nearly 7 yards per carry. He then transfers his final year over to Miami, and he's putting up 1,000 yards in a new program, 10 touchdowns. You scroll over here. So he started at Oregon State. You scroll over here, and he's still putting up some receiving totals, nothing elite. It does get bigger each year in terms of the receiving pie, the target share, but he's not going to be known as a pass catcher. That would be his one negative. Like the rushing production is there, the efficiency, kind of the vision. We'll talk about all that when we break down his film, and the athleticism, but as a receiver, he's limited. Let's specifically talk about the strengths first, though. He's a powerful and bruising back who can regularly break tackles thanks to his contact balance and his powerful legs. He's quick and elusive for his size, especially his lateral quickness. He has an impressive build and a great mixture of patience and vision. He also has underrated ball security, I would say. In 2024, he did split the backfield with, I believe it was March Fletcher, who had 112 carries. Fletcher Patrick Jr., but he didn't have any fumbles, Damien Martinez, in 2024. Now, in terms of the negatives, we talked about the one. The receiving skills aren't there. He's probably not going to be a 3-down back in the NFL unless that improves, but there are some others. He never had a workhorse role in college, never topping 200 carries. He needs to improve as a pass protector in terms of technique and hand placement, and like we said, the receiving upside isn't there. What I will say, though, on some of the advanced metrics to kind of show you really where he stands out, you can see here Sharp Football on Twitter says that he was a tough interior runner, number 2 in the class in terms of yards after contact, only behind Ashton Genty, who will be easily a first-round pick. He also only had 8.2% of his runs get stuffed at or behind the line of scrimmage, number 1 in the class, so he gets positive yards no matter what. His 6.7 yards per carry between the tackles was number 2 in the class, and 37% of his runs gained a first down, number 3 in the class. So what does this guy do? I mean, he just falls forward, he gets positive yardage no matter what, and he's able to run between the tackles pretty solidly. So I think he can fit on a lot of teams. And be an early down back, a first and second down back. You can see here on Mock Draft Database, he's projected to be a 5th-round pick. If you scroll down to see some of the teams that he does fit with or they're projecting him to, early on right now, he's being projected to the Cowboys. I'm seeing a lot of steam there as well. That makes some sense. I think the Chargers also make sense, putting him behind a Najee Harris, who might only be there on his 1-year contract. Dolphins have a bunch of running backs, some aging running backs. Not really as interested in that. And I do think the Colts make sense. This is what I'll point out, though. Right here, you can see the Cowboys are expected, and this is pretty recent as of a couple of days ago, to target Miami running back Damien Martinez on day 2 if they're unable to land Genty with the 12th overall pick. Martinez would be an amazing fit for the Cowboys. I mean, they let Rico Dotto go. Javonte Williams slides in nicely as a pass protector, pass catcher on 3rd downs if that's what they wanted to do. Damien Martinez on early downs could end up seeing 12 to 15 touches a game in his rookie year if he lands on Dallas. Now for the next running back who I believe is going overlooked, and it's Devin Neal out of Kansas, 5'11", 213 pounds. I mean, if you watch college football last year, we'll talk about it. You know that this guy put up some massive numbers and performances at the NFL Combine. Runs a 4.58 40 time. That's the concern here. This is as average as speed gets, and you don't really want to have average speed if you're an NFL running back. But his short area quickness, his burst, his jumps to the Combine, 83rd percentile. That is something that's saving him right now. If he was to fall down draft boards, though, the Combine performance in terms of the speed really didn't encourage many teams. But even though he didn't blow people away at the Combine, like the Fast Draft app says right here, you can see that some of the areas where he did stand out. We just talked about and showed you the player profile or burst, the jumps, his dominator rating, how much of his team's offense he put up in college and what he was responsible for. 85th percentile, the closer this is to 100 is better. 10.4% target share is great for a running back. Broke out at just 18.1 years old. So that means there was early production. He was kind of as a boy just dominating older guys in college, if you will, 22 to 23-year-olds. As an 18-year-old, he was finding success. That means a lot. It means you break out young, usually leads to future NFL success. And now here's what he did. He ended up staying, pretty surprisingly, all 4 years in Kansas. He did not take advantage of the transfer portal. He really didn't need to, because as you can see, every single year from his freshman year, getting 158 carries and 700 plus rushing yards, and then all the way down these final 3 years, he had 1,000 plus yards every single season, including his final 2 where he had 1,200 plus yards and 17 touchdowns. He was efficient every single season. He's having 20 plus receptions each of his final 2 years. The 11%, the 10% target shares, these are very strong numbers. So he is a versatile running back. He can produce on the ground and through the air as a receiver. And I mentioned some of those big games that he had against ranked competition, and this was 3 weeks in a row towards the middle to start of the season. This was against Colorado. 37 carries, which is insane, 37 carries, over 200 yards, despite the high volume, still averaging 5.5 yards per carry, 3 touchdowns, a monster performance. Okay, let's look at the next one here. This is a game that he ended up having against Iowa State 2 weeks later, 18 carries, 6.4 yards per carry, over 100 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then against BYU, a tough competition for him, another ranked team, 3 weeks in a row. It's not the prettiest performance, 3.7 yards per carry, although a tough matchup, some injuries on the offensive line, still finds 2 touchdowns, continues to fall forward. That's just the name of the game for Devin Neal. Now, while watching his film, I was very impressed. He's a borderline top 10 running back. He didn't make that official list. He's like the one, maybe right off of it, number 11 for me, and it had to do with his film. Let's discuss. As we've hinted at, he's great after contact. He's always falling forward and among the best in the class in broken tackles. He is very quick on his feet and able to get to the edge. He's fluid and explosive, a durable player throughout college, and a creative runner in the open field. And very quietly, he's just a consistent producer. We have 4 years on him, a bunch of film in the same exact offense for the most part in Kansas, and we saw his 3-down ability. Now, in terms of the negatives, surprisingly, even though he's like going overlooked, he's not in my top 10, there really wasn't a ton. He could improve his pass protection. The long speed is a little bit of a concern, and he did have a big workload for 4 years, so maybe some teams are concerned with durability, but those concerns overall, like pass protection, you can get worked on. He had a workload all 4 years because he was consistently producing. Like, I'm not too concerned. Right now, he's being projected as a 5th-round pick. I think that would be a steal for some teams. I personally believe that he has the potential to go in the 3rd and probably ends up settling in the 4th round of the drafts, and all these teams I would love to see him on. The Chiefs, I think, make a ton of sense. The Broncos, I think, probably take a running back earlier, but if not, and he's there in the 5th round, or they double up on the running back position, I think that's fine. The Patriots also make a lot of sense. Ramondre Stevenson, they did give a contract to last year, but they can get out of that somewhat. And he has been, I would say, at best, an average running back these past couple of seasons for the Patriots. So I think any of these teams make a lot of sense for Devin Neal, who is maybe like my most anticipated or excited running back out of all these names we're going to talk about today, outside of maybe the number one guy at the end. It's hard not to like that guy. But we'll get to him after we talk about Bashad Smith out of SMU, who's a very creative player. It's very interesting. He's a lot like Tyron Tracy, because this is a guy who is 5'10", 194 pounds, a former wide receiver, didn't start playing the running back position full time until last year, which is basically the same thing that we saw out of Tyron Tracy in Purdue, and then he goes to the NFL and he had a lot of success with the Giants. Now, this is a very talented player all around. The speed is there. 4.39 speed is fantastic. 78th percentile speed score at his size. I think that's fine. I think he could even maybe put on an extra 3 to 5 pounds and get to 200 pounds by the time the NFL comes and maybe even the NFL draft is over. If you look at his production, you'll see here just 23 rushing yards, 22, 132, because he wasn't a running back. He was primarily a wide receiver. He had 1,000 total yards as a receiver in college before ending up transferring to SMU and then being a workhorse running back for them. 234 carries, over 1,300 yards, 18 touchdowns. Also sees his most receiving production, ironically, out of the backfield, 39 catches for over 300 yards. I mean, this guy goes out there and puts up nearly 1,700 yards while remaining efficient, posting a 12% target share, looking great in his first ever year as a running back. And when I watch his film, it reminds me a lot of Tyron Tracy. Like, you can see these same characteristics as a former receiver becoming a running back. Let's break it down. He's a versatile player who can play out of the backfield or in the slot. He's explosive with top-end speed and regularly outruns defenders. There's quick feet, great vision, contact balance, and he's always fighting for extra yards. He looks like he's a wide receiver in a running back's body because that's what he is. I don't know if that necessarily made sense, but he looks like he's a former wide receiver is what I was trying to say. But with that comes some downsides. He obviously has limited running back experience. He's a bit undersized, which could raise some durability issues. Pass protection is a concern as he doesn't have much experience there, and there were some struggles with ball security. A lot of these could be fixed with just more experience. He's currently projected to be a 6th round pick. Last year, for example, Tyron Tracy went in the 5th round. I think Bashad Smith might even have been a better college running back in his one season, and I would argue that, although not the same competition Tyron Tracy was facing in the Big Ten, but some teams that, you know, he can be a fit for. And if he's going to be a 6th round pick, this could really be any team taking a stab on a late round running back. The Panthers, the Seahawks would be interesting. The Vikings would also be interesting, as I think they need some depth behind an Aaron Jones. I know they traded for Jordan Mason. Not sure that's a long-term fill for them. But again, once we're down in these 5th or 6th or even 7th round projected picks like a Bashad Smith, it's really hard to nail the team that'll be on. Now, before we get to the guy who I believe is probably the number one most overlooked running back in this draft, maybe even a borderline top 5 guy not being discussed like that at all, I do want to let you know that most fantasy players during the offseason are completely asleep. They're not paying attention nearly as much as they should be. And if you want to stay up to date all offseason in just 4 minutes a week, you can scan the QR code on the screen or click the link in the description. I'll send you a newsletter every single week to make sure that you're the most updated player in your league. It'll take you to this page right here. You just drop in your email, and then I'll just send you only the most important information. So while all your friends in August, once the draft starts to come around for fantasy, are starting to figure out or trying to figure out, like, okay, what do I have to do now? Let me catch up on all this. You'll already be at that point and just pushing forward and being ready to dominate your draft. So again, QR code on the screen or click the link in the description below. All right, now for that number one most overlooked player. We talked about him in my top 10 running back rankings because he's in my top 10. So we're going to discuss him again. It's RJ Harvey out of UCF, 5'8", 205 pounds. I mean, I think this guy could maybe be like the next Bucky Irving, if you will, a guy who's going underrated, has a ton of upside, and just because of some small flaws to his game, people don't like him, maybe like his age, but he goes to the NFL Combine, and unlike Bucky Irving, he lights it up. 95th percentile 40-yard dash at 4.40, 89th percentile burst, his jumps, his short area quickness. That's kind of what he's known for, RJ Harvey. I think he's a borderline top 5 running back. I think he was my number 7 or 8 in my top 10 rankings, pushing close to that top 5, and he's not being discussed like that at all. I mean, this guy in his 3 years at college at UCF, every single year he was productive. I mean, all 3 seasons he's averaging at least 6 yards per carry. He had 200 plus receiving yards every year, and just look at the production. As a freshman, he's going for 120 carries for 800 yards. Then he has 1,400 yards. Then nearly 1,600 yards and 25 touchdowns. This is the guy I was talking about in the intro of the video. There's a guy with 1,500 plus rushing yards last year, 25 touchdowns. You factor in his receiving production, he's over 1,700 total yards, and he's probably going to be a 5th round pick. If we look at some of the advanced stats from Dataroma on Twitter, you can see right here, 6.6 yards per carry in his career, number 1 amongst the 31 running backs at the Combine. Missed tackles 4th. He was tied for 4th across this class. Yards per out run as a receiver 6th. Breakaway runs of 10 plus yards, he was 1st. So what does this all lead to? He's a well-rounded back with a lot of production. He's efficient and explosive. I mean, obviously all that's great. And when I look at some of the film, it makes things even better when it comes to the positives. He has some of the best lateral quickness in this class. That is definitely his X factor, consistently creating yards after contact. He's a proven pass catcher as well, who is willing and able in the blocking game with good vision and patience. But of course, if those are the pros, there has to be some negatives that are pushing him so far down. The one is that he's an older prospect, 24 years old. I don't really care about that too much because, again, these guys are on a 4-year contract as rookies, and then they go to a new team. The team's not going to care. They'll get them in their prime. As for the other negatives, he does need some pass protection work. He could be better when it comes to contact and breaking tackles, and he always does seem to be looking for a big play. As you can see, he is currently projected to be a 5th-round pick. He can basically land anywhere at that point, depending on what teams take earlier. You see the Rams, the Giants. I think the Giants make some sense. I think the Chiefs and Colts, I've been saying the Colts a lot. I think I mentioned in my top 10 video that the Colts and RJ Harvey make a ton of sense. I think he complements Jonathan Taylor really well. If Taylor was to go down and miss some time, which it seems like he does every year with injury for a couple of weeks to a month plus, Harvey can step in and also be a workhorse because we saw that in the last 3 years of college. So these have been the 5 most overlooked running backs in the NFL draft, in my opinion. Now, if you want to see the wide receiver version of this video, it will be out later this week and be populated right here. Until that one comes out, though, if you want to check out my full rankings of my top 10 running backs in this draft class, ranking them in order 10 all the way down to 1, that video will pop up here as well. Appreciate you all a ton. Hit subscribe before you go, and we'll see you in the next one.